Round and round it goes, and where it stops, nobody knows. Good morning, everybody. It's Stephen here for Bland Designs and the Idiot Quilter, and welcome to my weekly vlog number 362 for June the 3rd, 2024. So, what have I been up to? Well, I finally got the Churchill block quilt, what I'm calling it now, done. So here it is. It's all bound, it's all quilted and everything like that. It's all done. I'm not 100% happy with it. However, tomorrow on the Idiot Quilter, I will be pointing out why I'm not 100% happy with it, and I'll be showing you some close-ups of the quilting and some close-ups of what I used on the backing of this particular quilt. But it's done. It's part of the sew-along that Stephanie of Stephanie Stitches and myself have been doing over the last few weeks. And I think this week is going to be pretty much our last video. We're wrapping it up. So that will come out later this week. No, I am sorry. That will come out next week, I think. Yeah. Anyways, we're getting close to the end. So that's basically all I've been up to. Well, I've been doing other things too, but not so much on the actual creation of another quilt or something like that. And I am thinking about what the next one will be. And again, I'll probably be discussing that in more detail on the Idiot Quilter tomorrow. So that takes us to the YouTube channel of the week. And I found this series that was been produced by the city of Toronto. And it's about various areas of Toronto and the history of those areas. If you are from Ontario or from the Toronto area, or the greater Toronto area, as I am, you might find some of these things interesting because you've probably been to Toronto, and it's kind of cool to see what Toronto looked like 100 years ago, 50 years ago, and the way it has developed over time. So if you're into the history of cities or things like that, you might want to check this out. It's called the Old Toronto Series, and here's my look at that. This week's video clip is one that if you're into history of places, you might really enjoy this. Now, this is specifically about Old Toronto, Ontario. But I find it really quite fascinating. It talks about a lot of places I have been to before in Toronto, and it also talks about a lot of things I didn't know about the history of Toronto. The city of Toronto, or the city of York, what it was originally called back in the early 1800s, is actually a very old area of Ontario. It's probably one of the first major areas to be settled. And this video series, this Old Toronto series, is really quite good because it has old archival pictures and movies and things like that of various spots and attractions in Toronto. You can see here the list: General Toronto Interest History, the history of Kensington Market, of Ontario Place, buildings in Toronto history, the CNE, things like that. But it also has a whole series about Murdoch Mysteries. And I know that's a very popular television show, not just in Canada, but in Australia, in England, and in the United States as well. So there's some background to that for those of you that are Murdoch Mystery buffs. Talks about various Toronto neighborhoods. This is great for anybody who's coming to Toronto as a tourist. There's a lot of interesting things here that you might want to see. So it gives you some background to that and maybe some things that you didn't know to make your trip that much better. So this is a very rich YouTube channel, and I find it quite fascinating because I do like history, and this is right in my own backyard. So check it out if you're interested, called the Old Toronto Series. So you'll find a link for the Old Toronto Series in the show notes below. You'll find a link, as always, for Sewing with Stephanie and Stephen, which is our weekly Wednesday sew whatever you want to drop in kind of thing, starting at 9 a.m., ending at around 4 p.m. Eastern Time, and the links for that are in the show notes below. Okay, you'll also find some links for a couple of my patterns that I created. They're freebies. They'll probably be on there for a little bit longer as well. And if you have been working on one of my patterns, and if you have any comments or questions about it, please feel free to drop them in my comment section under any of my videos, or send it to me directly. Okay. There's links for all my friends' YouTube channels as well. And there's a link to my past week videos. And you will find a special link, special link in there for Durham Pride 2024. More about that a little bit later on. But now let's just turn our attention to what things are looking like by way of my Ring camera. And so there it is. That's what this morning looks like at 7 a.m. It looks like it might be a little overcast, or it's hard to tell because we're not to the full day yet. The temperature right now is 14 degrees C. It looks dry. I'm just checking here on my phone to see if they are predicting any kind of rain or anything like that. The winds are from the southeast. Okay, how do I get to... Today is sunny, and it looks like it's going to be sunny pretty much all day today. Okay, where's the rain? Temperature, rain, here we go. Today, 0% of rain. So that's kind of nice. And everything's looking very luscious out there. Walter's garden at the front of the house, as you can see, this part of it. I should probably go out in another week or two and take some pictures of the front of the house, because Walter does a fantastic job of making everything look beautiful. And yeah, summer is here. Not officially, but close enough. Okay, so that takes me to what's pissing me off this week. Well, you know, it's not hard to wake up every morning and be pissed off about something, which is probably not good for your psyche, is it? Being negative about things. But there are an awful lot of things in this world anymore. We're being bombarded by negativism. But one of the things is, which gets my goat, is everybody's an expert. Everybody thinks because they've read something on the internet, they've watched some YouTube video or whatever, or watched the news on a regular basis, that they know what there is to know about whatever topic is out there. There's a lot of know-it-alls out there. And it's starting to really get my goat, because I don't know where to go to get reliable information about something. It's more like, well, let's back up for a second. The internet. When it first came online and people were getting into it, one of the features of the internet people really liked is they could get instantaneous news about any event anywhere in the world. We didn't have to wait for the newspaper to be printed. We didn't have to wait for the evening news to come on air. We could go right to the internet and find out what we needed to find out. And for the first little while, the first few years in that was, yeah, great and relatively reliable. But as all good things, what happens to all good things, they all come to an end. The scammers got in there, the spin artists got in there, the corporations got in there. Anybody who wanted to turn a nickel got in there and started manipulating those sources, or creating other sources that, well, in the States you've got Fox News, right? And you know the controversy around Fox News, I am sure. You know, to coin a phrase, not to coin it, but to use a phrase by the ex-president that's hopefully going to jail, fake news. But you know, I don't agree with anything else he does, but I do agree with his title for the news, fake news. Of course, he wasn't using it in the way that I'm thinking of it, but really it is fake news in the sense that it is, well, the old term, and I don't know if they still use it, I used to teach media, so I used to teach this term to the kids, it's a spin. They spin everything. What that means is they take the essence of a story, the truth of it, and they manipulate it in such a way that it's going to attract viewers or listeners or readers, which of course in turn attracts ad representatives, ad companies and things like that, commercials. That's how they make their money, right? And they give it maybe a bit of a spin to make it sensationalized or whatever. So in the process of doing that, the truth gets buried. There may be a kernel of truth in these things, but it's overshadowed by all the manipulation, all of the outright lies in some cases that many of these supposed news outlets give us. So we can't depend on that anymore for reliable news. It used to be that news reporters had a job to be objective about what they reported. Just the facts, ma'am, just the facts. Well, that has changed. They are not objective, they're subjective, because subjectivity sells. People get real excited about hearing somebody's opinion, especially if that person is a celebrity. Doesn't mean that they are necessarily reliable in the news they're giving, but they can spin it, they can deliver it in such a way that it keeps our interest. Because we love scandal. We love mystery. We love suspense. And all of those things which should be left to the novelists are now in what's supposed to be delivering the facts. Excuse me. So anyways, we can't depend on them. And now, of course, we have the social media world. Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, Snapchat, you name it. The channel that was formerly known as Twitter, X, whatever. And there are lots of big name people that are writing things there, and a whole lot more of, well, individuals we don't know who they are. But I have found if you write something in an authoritarian way, or if you sound authoritarian, then people tend to believe what you have to say or write. And that's dangerous, because politicians know how to do this. Other people, ad creators, know how to do this as well, to convince us to buy a product. That doesn't mean just because they sound like they know what they're talking about that they do. Why do you think politicians have teleprompters when they give major speeches? They didn't write those speeches. They hire people who have a gift for taking things and writing it in such a way that it sounds believable and sounds truthful. But it doesn't necessarily mean that it is. So there, we can't even turn to something that was created to share information worldwide, the World Wide Web, as it used to be called. We can't even turn to that for reliability. So, is there such a thing as truth in our society today? It used to be, I won't believe it till I see it. Well, we see it all the time. And they give us stock footage. They take certain shots and deliver that with certain text, and it makes us think that this is the truth, that this is real. I'll give you an example. Every time I start one of these things, I get a throg in my throat. Bear with me, please. So I'll give you an example I used to give to the kids in my media classes. Okay? We're watching the news. They're talking about a bombing somewhere. They say, it was a terrible thing. So many people were killed. So many were wounded. And they show at the same time images of burnt out buildings, burnt out cars, rubble on the ground, ruins. However, that is not necessarily the actual situation. And you have to think about it. How did they get, or they show actual footage where things are blowing up. How did they get that? How were they there at the moment these things happened to get those shots or those video? Because they probably weren't. It would have been a coincidence if they'd been there. Did someone call them up and say, "Hi, we're about to bomb this city. You want to get there and get your camera out?" I don't think so. They didn't do it that way. But these pictures coupled with the text makes you think that this is the actual situation, because your mind fills in the blanks for all the rest of it. Your mind doesn't think about it and analyze it and pull it apart. Is this real, not real? So, yeah, we're easily fooled. Now, at one time, and sometimes you'll still see it occasionally, they used to stick way up in the corner of your screen on a news program, for example, says stock footage or from file, meaning this is an old picture, but we're using it in the context of what we're telling you right now. I don't see that as often anymore. So that would suggest that what we're seeing is, I'm not saying it isn't real in the sense that it didn't happen, but what you're seeing may not be exactly how it happened. And that's where, the line is drawn between truth and fiction. So where do we turn for the truth? How do we get it? A lot of us think hearsay is the truth. On the social media networks, there is all kinds of information that people share from their knowledge. But again, if they write it in an authoritarian way, we think it's true. There is probably more misinformation and outright lies on social media than there is actual truth. But you try to argue with people about this, and I have. And the thing I'd like to say to people is, well, how do you know that's true? Well, I saw it on this YouTube channel. Well, what makes that YouTube channel reliable? Does it come from a reliable source? Well, I don't know. My friend Jean told me to check it out. She thought it was really good. See, opinion. We all have an opinion, don't we? I know there's that old saying, right? Opinions are like assholes. Everybody's got one. Yeah. If you say anything in a very matter-of-fact, authoritative voice, you can convince anybody that what you're telling them is the truth. Try it sometime. I've tried it. It works. It does work. Just go in, confident sounding. Yes, I know this to be true. And you can say any kind of bullshit you want. And there'll always be somebody out there who will believe every word you say like it's gospel truth. Okay? Gospel truth. Why do we use that expression? Because even that is somewhat fictitious. Yeah, but we'll not get into that discussion today. So I guess the bottom line of what's pissing me off is the fact that I don't know what's real anymore. I have no idea. I would be very hard pressed if I had to teach media again to high school students to show them how to find the truth, because I don't know how you do that. I guess you gather information from all kinds of sources and try to cobble together what you think might be the truth. But there's the problem in that too. What you think or what I think is the truth. Again, it's moving out of the realm of objectivity to subjectivity, which isn't good. So there we are. We're at the whim of the media. Maybe ignorance is bliss, as the expression goes. Maybe if we didn't know these things or whatever, we could go on having happy little lives. Happy in the fact that everything in our world is going fine and we don't care about whatever is going on beyond us. Create our own truth. Live our own truth. That's an expression too. But anyways, you might want to think about this the next time somebody's telling you something and, question the source. Question the source. Okay, so that takes me to new products. Well, I haven't bought anything really new. Well, that's not completely true. I bought a whole lot of fabric because I went to a fabric sale, fantastic one on the weekend, and I'm going to talk all about that and show you my fabric haul from that tomorrow on the Idiot Quilter, because of course it all has to do with quilting. Okay, so that takes me to the grow lights and the deck plants. Several pictures for you. Things are coming up really nicely. So here's one corner of the deck. This is lettuce, the green peppers, and some tomatoes. And you can see we have several varieties of lettuce in here. And they're coming along. They're getting up there. Another couple of weeks and we'll be able to harvest some of it. And, we'll have this, we'll keep this going through the whole summer. We've already started some lettuce down in the grow lights, as I'll show you later. But here's more, another view of all the plants. Walter has been transplanting some of these to put them in better pots than they were in when he bought them. He did decide that this year, instead of starting the tomatoes from scratch, from seed, he'd buy plants. That's why all of these plants, there's some pepper plants here, some tomato plants, why they are so big right now, because they were already that way. But you see, they're getting flowers now. And once they start getting flowers, of course, then we're going to start getting some, produce here. And I don't know if you can see it in this picture, but right here, if you can see my arrow, there's a little tiny green pepper. And there's several of them in here growing. So that is a good sign. Again, green peppers take a long time. They take about 80 days to get to the point where you can harvest them from seeds. So this just speeds it up by buying the plants. Yes, it costs you a little bit more money, but not that much. And it means you can enjoy your produce a little easier. And down here at the end, you can see that's another pepper. Oops, that's not where I want it to go. Sorry, went backwards. There we go. Here's a close-up of what I was talking about, those little peppers. You can see them right there. You see the flowers here, and when the flowers are dying off, the little peppers are coming on. And this one looks like we're going to have quite a few peppers on this one. Ooh, I didn't see this. These two, these aren't so little. They're coming up really nice. They're much bigger. So yeah, things are doing well there. Onions, yes, onions. I don't think these were ones that Walter started in the house. I think he planted them outside, and they're coming along very, very nicely as well. Now inside, here are the inside onions under the grow lights, and they're doing well. There's a couple that are duds. I don't think they're going to sprout. Have to take a closer look to see if there's any little green on those. But you do get that. You buy them as bulbs, kind of a thing, the bottom half, and just plant them. These colorful green things are radishes. Now, I don't know what the plan is, if Walter's going to leave them in this, or if he's going to take them and when they get a little bit bigger and transplant them outside. I think he was going to transplant them outside. I don't think we have any growing outside at the moment. This is lettuce, and it's going to stay inside, okay, under the lights. The lettuce does very well under the lights. It takes a little longer than outdoors, but, you know, by the time we get through the stuff that's outdoors, this stuff will be ready to eat too. And, you know, you just keep it going. It's a perpetual thing. This is an experiment, and I think it's going terribly wrong. Walter bought two heads of living lettuce. You know, the ones with the root system on them, and they're in a container that has a little bit of water in it as well. I like the living lettuce. It's nice because you just trim it off when it's in the fridge, and it's not supposed to look as wilted as this. I did add more water to the container, and it is under lights, but I don't think this is going to survive. We'll have to eat this in the next few days, I think, very quickly, because I don't think this is going to work. I did suggest to Walter, but he doesn't think it would work, is just take the whole head of lettuce and plant it and see what would happen. And actually, I think we should, and I think we should plant it outside and just see if it will root. But these have been raised hydroponically, so they probably won't survive. You know, they're going, oh, no, that's dirt. I don't do dirt. I just do water. So we'll see. It's an experiment. It's how you learn these things, right? And yeah, so that's all I have to show you about how things are growing. And they're looking green and luscious. Okay, so that takes me to, can I print this 3D effing thing? Well, yes, I can, but I want to show you. I've been trying to challenge myself, as you know, with things that are a little bit more, you know, challenging to print. So these are what are often referred to as practical prints. So let me explain what we have here and why these were a little bit more complicated. Okay, right here is a jug, a watering jug. It could be a jug for anything. I wouldn't put anything in it that you're going to put in your body, like any kind of food or liquid you're going to drink. Reason being is this plastic, I don't know if it's really good for you. I know some people that use it, and it's PLA, and people say PLA is okay because the base of it is supposedly made of cornstarch. Now, how do I find out the truth about that after everything I've said? I don't know. I need to do more research and see. But anyways, I don't take the chance. So I wanted a new watering can. So that's why I created this. And it looks really nice. And it doesn't hold water. It leaks like a sieve. Yeah, that can happen with some 3D prints. They aren't always watertight in the way that they're made. Could I have made this so it would be watertight? Possibly. If I made the walls of it, the bottom of it thicker, I'd have to go into my slicer program to adjust the parameters for that. But I found another design that is watertight that I liked better, so I'm not going to worry about redoing this one. This little green thing down here with the little wheel on it, okay, I'm not sold on this idea. It sounded like a good idea. It's meant to mount it on the wall. You see there's two little holes up here for screws. You mount it on a wall, and then you take the handle of a broom or whatever, and it fits right down in here, and it's adjustable because this little wheel rolls up and down along this side. There's sort of a little track here with teeth on it, and it clamps the handle of your broom or whatever on the wall. You've seen these kind of things in different formats in the hardware store. So I thought I'd try to make it because this was it wasn't a print in place, but it was a very fast print. And anytime you're dealing with like gears and that, there could be problems. It does work. I've tried it out. The thing I don't like about it though is it's very easy for this little round sprocket thing, this wheel, to fall out of this holder. There is a groove in here, as you can see, but that groove is not really deep enough to keep that in the holder. So I think, you know, if you take the broom out, you have to be careful when you're putting the broom handle in this and taking it out, because it's very easy to flip that out and lose it somewhere. So yeah, that's a practical print. Great idea. It needs some refinement, something to hold that sprocket in there. These little things, I love these. These are called hanging storage containers. They're just a little bottle. The original size is the size of this blue one here and this purple one here. And it has a lid that screws onto it and has this little hole up here. So the idea is you could put it on a carabiner, whatever they're called, or something like that, a keychain, whatever, and you could keep whatever little items you want in there. Like I was thinking for sewing that, you could use it for your spent needles for safety. If you're going to throw them, dispose of them. You could make it into a little mini sewing kit. I think you could probably drop a bobbin in there with some thread on it and, you know, a couple of sewing needles. If you could find a really, really tiny pair of little scissors, that might work too. Or a tiny little seam ripper. You can make them bigger as well. And that's why I tried here with this long one. And that worked. But the problem was the cap. When I resized this, I resized the cap too. But the threads also expanded, and so they don't fit as nicely together. It doesn't screw down as well as this, because you can see here it's hard in this light, but there's a little gap here. It won't go down any further. So yeah, but this has potential. If I only think of a use for it. And then, okay, this is sort of practical, but more or less a novelty item. This fan that's here. This is a personal fan, and it sort of does work. You saw in the little teaser at the beginning of this, me using it, but it's not going to last. And quite frankly, it doesn't really blow that much air around. But I wanted to see if I could make it because there was some assembly required. And I had to figure that out. And so you did print some of these pieces separately. There's some little gears inside here. You can see them peeking out in this side. I usually stay away from anything that's going to involve some assembly. I need to get over that hurdle because there are many prints out there that are more elaborate, possibly more practical too. But you need to use special screws or washers or bearings in them and stuff like that. And, well, it's easy enough to get that stuff. You know, I ordered it all from Amazon. Not expensive. I just kind of go, eh. That's why I like print and place things. They're all together in one shot and away you go. But this is supposed to be a challenge. I need to challenge myself with this. So that's what I've been working on. Actually, I did these a few weeks ago. I have been working every week trying to do something a little bit different, a little bit new. So I've got something really interesting to show you next week. Yeah, that really got my adrenaline running. So that's for next week. Okay, so what's next here on my notes? Blasts from the past. So here's another one of my very, very early videos. A clip from it. This has been my most popular video ever. Right now it's had over 113,000 views. It has nothing to do with quilting. It has to do with crafting. and it has to do with how to make a stencil with your Cricut. I had, at the time that I made this video, I had recently acquired a Cricut, which is a die cutting machine, and I was doing a lot of art journaling, and art journaling involves doing a lot of layered backgrounds, and there's a lot of stencil work that you can use in an art journal. And I thought, I wonder if I can make my own stencil. So I showed people how to do this using their Cricut, and I believed I used my laminator as well for this. But this gives you an idea of what my videos were kind of like 11 years ago. Yeah, 11 years ago. Okay, I'm going to show you how to make a stencil today using your Cricut. Now, the way I came upon this idea was I've been watching a lot of videos lately about using something called the jelly art plates, which are really cool, and if you look for them on YouTube, you're going to find a lot of videos showing you how to use those. You can also go to the Jelly Arts website, and they've got great ideas too. Essentially, very briefly, what the Jelly Arts are is a silicone sheet, very thick sheet, that you apply acrylic paint to, and then any objects you lay on it or any stencils you put onto it will take on that shape, and you just basically, it's a monoprint system where you lay a piece of paper down on the top of that and you create prints. It's kind of interesting, and maybe I'll show you what I'm trying to do with those in another video. But a lot of the videos I've seen for jelly art asked you to use stencils with it, and I didn't have that many stencils. And you know, unless somebody out there has a good idea where you can get a variety of interesting shape stencils, I'm not having a lot of luck finding them. And when I do find some, they're quite expensive, like $7, $8, $9 a piece. So I'm thinking, how can I make my own stencils using the Cricut? Because basically all a stencil is a blank piece of cardstock or plastic with shapes cut out of it. So I came up with this idea, and this really works well. So I'm going to show it to you. Now, I use a Xyron. This is my Xyron right here. It's the large one, okay? It will handle, I believe, 9 inches by, well, as long as you want, because it's a continuous roll. These are not cheap, and neither are the refills for this. Now, there are smaller Xyron machines that make stickers, and there's one in between that makes things about 2 inches wide, but really, I don't think those are going to work as well for this method. You need something a little bigger. If you've watched some of my previous videos, you know that I make covers for my albums using a laminate method where I sandwich between 2 pieces of pattern paper a core of cardboard, and that makes a nice stiff cover. And then I glue those together and put them through the Cricut, and that makes a nice stiff cover. Well, essentially this is the same method. So what I do is I take a piece of cardstock. Here's a piece of cardstock here. Hope it's not too much of a glare. And I just feed it through the Xyron, and it makes it sticky on one side. I peel off all the backing paper and that kind of thing. And then I take, and let me move the Xyron out of the shot. Then I take a sheet of acetate. Acetate. And you see this, you're probably getting a glare on this. And I just lay it down on the sticky side of the cardstock. I do that again with a second sheet. I put this piece back through the Xyron so I get sticky on the opposite side. And then flip it over and I glue down the other piece of acetate. Then I take this over to my cutter and I just cut off the edges, make them nice and even. So I end up with something that looks like this. Okay? Then, just to make sure that everything is sticking down properly before I feed it through the Cricut, I just varnish it. And I'm simply using the scraping tool that I have with the Cricut, and do it both ways, and you do it on both sides. Just get out any air bubbles, make sure it's all well stuck together. You could use a credit card for this, another type of scraper, whatever. And then, on the Cricut, and I'll show you here, I have a design up. And I'll just move the camera so you can see the screen. There you go. You can see that I've created a template. There's a bit of a glare. Just move it this way, of stars. And I've offset the stars so that I'll get a nice stencil pattern. And then, when I've got that designed, I just feed it into the Cricut. and it does the cutting. Now, when I put it in the Cricut, I am using a deep cutting blade with this, and I put it on multiple cuts. I actually put it at the speed of about 4, and I do 5 multiple cuts. I find that that makes a nice clean cut. And another tip, make sure that when you put the laminated sheet that you're going to cut down on your cutting mat, that your cutting mat has a lot of stickiness to it. Otherwise, it's going to shift and it's all going to crumple up, and that's not going to give you a nice clean cut. When you're finished cutting it, and you roll it out of the machine, and I'll show you that in a minute, you get a stencil. Now, this is one that I made with circle patterns to it. Very simple. I also use color cardstock just so I can see it better, but this is reusable. Now, it's plastic on both sides. Your paint wipes off it. So it's not a one-time deal. So I have one inside my Cricut right now, and I just finished cutting it. So let's eject it. I said let's eject. There we go. And I'm just going to take my lifting tool, and I hope it'll peel off. And you're just gentle with this. This was a relatively new pad that I put on here, so I'm trying not to get it to rip. Although this stuff is pretty strong. You might be wondering where you can get acetate. Easy. Staples, office supply stores. Actually, I have a whole lot of it left over because I used to be a school teacher and I used it a lot. That, and I still had some of it laying around the house, so I just used what I had laying around the house. Now I may have gotten this too sticky, because it's a little bit more difficult to take off than the last ones that I made, but it's coming. You just need patience. Patience, and wiggle it around here. We're getting there. I think you can get the idea, though, of what's happening. Okay, so this is coming up and off. Here we go. So some of these didn't cut all the way through, but usually you just pull them and they'll be fine. Pull a few more off. I did this one as stars. And also what I'm doing is I'm keeping it, I'm saving this file. I call it stencils. So as I make new ones with different shapes, cuts in them, I can just pull them up back onto my Cricut. I don't have to reinvent them. As you can see here, what's happening. Oh, boo-boo. Pulled apart there, but I think I can probably fix that with a little glue. Or I'll just make a new one, recut it, and put it on a pad that's maybe not quite as sticky, because that's what really happened here. But you're getting the idea. That one's not coming off very well. You know, doesn't it? It never fails. I did several of these already off camera. Each one of them came out perfect. And so when I go to film it, how's that? So let's move some of this stuff out of the way so you can see. So there you go. And there's a stencil all ready to go. Now what I do is I might square it up a little bit just because I'm particular. Well, this one came out pretty good. Might trim off a little bit of the edges. So there you go. How to make your own stencils. And this will work with any shape or design that you want. And I'm using it with the jelly arts, but there's lots more potential here, obviously, for home decor, for your scrapbook pages, for whatever. Okay, hope you like that.
So that takes me to events in the past week. New glasses. Well, actually not new frames. I love these frames. I didn't want new frames, but I had a change in my prescription, and so I took that in and got these new lenses. These are progressives, okay, but unlike my other ones, which were progressives, these ones I like much better. I have a better peripheral vision with these. Things are a lot clearer with them, and I really am not finding that I'm having to look up and down and find that sweet spot to look through on your glasses. Yeah, they were not cheap. The lenses were $950. But I've never had cheap glasses. Frames are, in comparison to what you can pay on your lenses, because these lenses are all kinds of fancy things to them. Frames are relatively cheap for them, but the lenses get you. So yeah, $950. We do have insurance The insurance though only covers up to $350 of the cost once every 2 years or something like that. You know, there's always that caveat in there as well. So anyways, yeah. So I did get my, actually they gave me $395, so maybe they've upped it. So yeah, not quite half of what the lenses cost, but it's better than a kick in the head. So I've got those. I can see nicely now. That's good. On the weekend, we went to a couple of things. On Saturday, we went to a big fabric sale in Brighton, Rhonda's Quilt Creations. I'm going to talk more about it tomorrow. I have some video footage from that sale. It was a fantastic sale, very, very busy. She runs it out of her house in her driveway and garage. Thank goodness it did not rain. And I got some really great bargains there. I mean, she had fabric at a ridiculously low price. So I'm going to talk more about that tomorrow on the Idiot Quilter. If you're interested, tune in. And yesterday, well, it's June, and for most places, the month of June is Pride Month, and at least in North America, although a lot of places have their Pride parades different times during the summer, and some of them go right into the fall. Depending on where you live and whatever the organization is set up. Like Toronto has theirs on the last Sunday of June. But here in my region, Durham region, we have regional governments in Ontario, and we are part of the Durham region, and it consists of several different municipalities in the area. So one of those municipalities is Ajax, 2 cities over from me to the west, and they were hosting the annual Durham Pride Parade. So we went to this, not expecting much. It was a cute little parade. It took it from the beginning to the end, where we were standing 29 minutes. Yeah. Not a lot happening in it, but you know, it's something. It's better than the very first one. Way back in the day when we used to run it out of here where I live, we were part of it, and oh, it was Mickey Mouse. And so, yeah, I mean, anything's Mickey Mouse for us in our area compared to Toronto's Pride. Toronto's Pride attracts over 1 million viewers. The parade route is extremely long, and it goes for hours. Hours. There are hundreds upon hundreds upon hundreds of people in that parade. Hundreds, thousands. Be thousands. And then in Toronto, of course, it's just so congested. We don't go to it anymore. You just can't move. Getting to it is a pain in the butt because everything in Toronto is under construction. It always is. Driving in Toronto is probably worse than driving in downtown New York, and I kid you not about that. So, yeah, we don't go. But we went to this one, and it was kind of nice. We saw the parade, and then they had an area where they had vendors set up, and we walked through that. I think in total we were there 2 hours. Like, from the moment we got there to stand to watch the parade go by to when we went through all the vendors and came home. Yeah, but it was a nice outing. And there are some other events coming up again next weekend, too. So we'll talk about that in a minute. But, so yeah, if you would like to see what the parade was in its entirety, I have videoed it and I have put it up on my channel, and there's a link for it in the show notes below so you can check it out and see what I'm saying. Okay, the video is very short. It's 11 minutes long. Okay. Yeah. All right. So that takes me to what's coming up. Well, 'tis the season for the annual Peony Festival here in my city, which is always kind of interesting because there are a lot of very beautiful peonies, and this is at the point in the year where the peonies are at their best. I'm just looking for the link here that I have for this to explain what I'm talking about. It's here somewhere. I should have had it up already, and I forgot to do that. But okay, where is the bloody thing? Here we go. Okay. All right. So this is what I'm talking about. The Peony Festival. And they have entertainment, they have food, they have vendors and everything out there. This is their website. And it's not that far away from us in where we live in Oshawa. We'll just have to figure out, you know, where we're going to park the car. But they do have a stage. They have a lot of things happening, as you can see. They list them all here. And of course, they do have competitions for the flowers inside, and they usually have a competition for bonsai trees as well that people have done. They have interactive activities, lots of things happening. It's a big event, and it is absolutely free. So we'll probably truck down to that on next Saturday. And it's always very, very busy when you go. And I'll take some video as well. And hopefully it'll be a really nice day. And I'll get some great shots of the peonies because they are very, very beautiful. And I will show all that to you next week. Okay, and what else is coming up? Well, as I said, we went to the Pride, Durham Pride. Well, there's other communities in our area that are having Pride events all throughout the summer. And we have a little booklet that we picked up yesterday while we were at the vendors installation. And yeah, there's a thing going on in a town just north of us next Saturday as well. So maybe we'll do the Peony Festival in the morning and do the other one in the afternoon or whatever. We'll see how that all turns out. And again, I'll do some video to share with you. Okay, so that's it for me today. Just a reminder, I don't often say this, but I need to. Walter says I have to get in the habit of this. So if Walter says I have to do this, I will do it. If you like my content, please support me by subscribing to the channel. Give me a thumbs up and hit that little bell button for notifications of any of the videos that I produce from there on. It does help the channel out, and I know you've heard this 1,000 times from every other creator out there. This is why I'm loath to say it, because I figure you already know this. But anyways, in case you don't, please support me. Okay, I hope you have a great week, and we'll see you later. Bye for now.